Welcome to episode 9 of Climate, Trees, and Legacy. I'm Connie Barlow. Today is September 14th, 2016, and I'm standing alongside a young giant sequoia, genus Sequoia dendron, native range, the Central Sierras of California. I'm standing right now in northwest Washington, near Sequim, Port Angeles, in the rain shadow of Mount Olympus, and that's why you can see all these grasses are dry. I'm told we only get about 13 inches of rain here a year. We're in the rain shadow. But we get a lot of overcast, a lot of fog, and apparently that's enough for this sequoia and many other trees here to be able to grow. Out there in the state forest, right, you can see in the background about 100 yards from here, the state forest, Douglas fir on the ridges, a lot of them. And then down in, right along in the bottom of the ravines, you get the giant red cedars, giant hemlocks, also some kind of a fir. Not sure what it is. It might be a grand fir. I'll have to look it up. But those are the 4 main wild tree species here. And also yesterday, I was just really delighted to encounter several specimens of an understory tree, Pacific yew. But I was delighted to discover this yesterday walking out of the woods and going, whoa, that's a sequoia tree here on this property. There's also Engelmans that the owner has planted, I think some Colorado blue spruce too, some birches. But just 2 days ago, I wrote a long proposal to the new Center for Creative Conservation at the University of Washington, proposing to them that prior to any assisted migration effort, which will always be controversial, for moving Sierra giant sequoia here, Sequoia dendron, or Sequoia genus, the coast redwood, northward in tandem with climate change, prior to doing that, there's already an experiment going on here to show, A, that they thrive here, B, what kind of conditions work best for them and what are the plant associates they work with, and C, that they are not invasive. There's no instance of an invasion going on, which in a way is too bad, because what's going to be important to document is whether any of the older plantings like this, and I've seen some when I was here in the 80s living in the Seattle area. I saw some big redwoods that had been landscaped, or sequoias. But to discern, are they capable of reproducing here? It's tough enough for them to reproduce in their native land. They tend to hold on to their cones for a long time, and it takes some kind of disturbance for them to release the seeds. But you want to have evidence of their being able to eventually not need humans. You want to do the assisted migration, and then you want to be able to step back out of it. So on the one hand, you don't want them invading and making it difficult for the current tree species here. But on the other hand, you do want them capable of naturalizing. And it's my experience as the founder of Torreya Guardians with Florida Torreya taxifolia, that kind of work is essential. That no one needs to do new experiments to test invasiveness or test ability to thrive if the landscapers inadvertently have already done it for us decades ago. In the case of Torreya, it was 80 or 90 years ago at Arboretums and then a property in western North Carolina. Biltmore Estate Gardens and then private property in Highlands. And particularly in the Highlands property where it had just been untended and left to grow for 90 years, we were able to document A, non-invasiveness, and B, the ability to naturalize, very slowly moving out. Seedlings of a variety of ages growing alongside the elders, 90-year-old elders, but only about 40 yards distance. That's the entire spread that this particular species had been able to distribute itself in western North Carolina starting from seed 90 years ago. So let's continue with episode 9 of Climate, Trees, and Legacy, and take a look at the prospects for helping sequoias move from California northward with climate change. Sunday morning, October 23rd. My husband is speaking here this morning at the Olympic Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Here's the sign along the main road, and look what I saw when we pulled in. That is a southern hemisphere, very primitive conifer, a monkey puzzle tree. There you can see some cone structures up at the top. Well, after we pulled in and parked, right where we parked, there were some other non-native trees here. Let's go see who they are. Continuing to walk into the parking lot, but I wanted to pause here. Those are the Olympic Mountains. This Unitarian congregation is halfway between Sequim and Port Angeles, and Sequim is famous for being the driest spot on this west part of Washington State on the Olympic Peninsula, but it's in the rain shadow of these Olympic Mountains. So let's see what tree works well here. There's our van, and right behind it there are two sequoias. These two plantings out here, it looks to me like the native, well, that one is a native grand fir. This one looks like a Dougie right here. Let's go take a close-up look. Well, both of these first two trees here are grand firs. These are native here, right along the edge, but you can see here, this is a sequoia, and that is a sequoia. And here, I'll go in close, you'll be able to see the grand fir branches on the right. That's the grand fir. Very kind of flat rounded on the tips, not at all pointed. And over here we have the typical sequoia branching. They look very healthy here. At this other entrance to the same Unitarian congregation, look at this. We got another sequoia here, and right on the other side I counted 6 in there. Talked to someone who's been here since 2005, and they said that they heard that 7 sequoias, these 7, would have been donated by a church member who's now deceased, donated before he arrived here in 2005. And obviously they've been growing a lot because they're going to have to move that sign. Let's go take a walk through this grove. I'll just, it's really quite lovely walking through here. And just to see, we'll be able to see how happy these trees are. Obviously they're not getting watered out here, and yet they're doing just fine. Here we go. Okay. Here's a good place to see the bark on one here. Very red indeed. And these tops are just unmistakable out here in the Pacific Northwest, even at a distance. There's just something about the fullness and the exactitude of the triangular tops that come here, and certainly the foliage of sequoias are so much easier to distinguish from any of the native trees here than the redwoods are at a distance. Let's keep walking through here. Nice little wood chip path. Yeah. I just came out here to check these trees again and was very surprised. Here you can see some cones very surprised that on this one here, there's 3 cones here, and then there's another spot with 2 other spots slightly higher up with 1. This is on just the south-facing side. This is what you would expect. Just the south-facing side. I also see 1 lone one on the south-facing side over there. I haven't seen any over here. But talking with someone who's been with the congregation for a long time, her recollection is that these were planted either around 2000 or 2001. And this is 2016, so 15 years out here. And then I would imagine they were 2 or 3 or 4 years old seedlings, maybe a little older when they were planted. So just under 20 years, pretty much full sun here. And again, you can see that here is where, even on this 18, 19, 20-year-old, it's already producing some cones.
This is a redwood. You know, the California redwoods that get humongous. Yes, exactly. And this is a sequoia, which is also, normally people think of it as a California tree, but you actually have some sequoias right here on this property. And these are big, big, massive trees that most people associate with California, but because climate is changing so rapidly, there are already people that are planting these up here, and guess what? They are thriving. They love it up here.
Like that big one behind you?
Yes, there's all kinds of, so here, I'm gonna give you a little piece of this, because one of the things that we can do to help life, because it makes us feel good when we help life, is learn about planting trees. And some of the trees that right now are struggling because the climate is getting warmer, find out what trees are thriving in the south, like a couple hundred miles from here, and bring them up and plant trees, as some people here have already done. So I'm going to give each of you a little leaf, and that way I want you to use this to find where are the others on your property.
The trees also have smells too.
Yes, they do. In fact, smell that one.
That smells really nice.
It does. And so try to use this to find the sequoias on your property. Because somebody here at the church thought about this and are already planting these big trees that most people associate with much further south.
These are spiky.
They are spiky.
I think.
So basically the bottom line of what I'm trying to say is that we can help life. We can not just do less bad, but we can do good. We can actually help out and love life by finding out what trees are going to thrive here in the next 10 or 20 or 30 years and then planting them here. It's called assisted migration, and if you want to know more about it, talk to my wife Connie, because she's one of the world's experts in assisted migration.
I know a lot about trees.
Sweetie, she wants to talk to you.
December 11th, 2016, and I'm here in Whidbey Island, Puget Sound, Washington, and I'm making the last of 2 of these kind of parcels for the special project that's going to be happening tomorrow at Jefferson Park, Seattle. Sponsored by the City of Seattle, the Archangel Project of Champion Trees, which is what it's all about. And I'll be representing Torreya Guardians there, and I'm making little packets here of the 2 sister species of the clones of the champion giant redwoods. That Archangel young climbers went up in California, climbed way up, cut the branchlets off, sent them back to Michigan, where the Archangel Champion Project has a big greenhouse, rooted them in soil, grew them for a couple years, and sent 300 of them to Seattle. Philip Steelstra is the one who's a volunteer with Archangel, who's picked them up, and 26 communities around Puget Sound are going to be planting them, and he's got kids from Plant for the Planet. It's climate ambassador kids from elementary school that will be there doing the actual planting. Now these are going to be giant redwoods that their kids are planting, 26 different communities around here. This will be the first one happening, Jefferson Park. And so I had been collecting some cones of giant sequoia in Lewiston, Idaho, and in the Portland area. I just collected a bunch of cones from the far back two of these trees. I couldn't find any real unmuddy cones from this first one here. But everywhere I looked, the big tree was back there. We've got more there. We've got a giant one right behind, actually two. Oh my gosh, more over here. This place is full of giant sequoias. This is Laurelhurst Park, Portland, Oregon, December 4th. I'd also been collecting some cones of metasequoia, dawn redwood, when I was in Walla Walla earlier this fall. And so I finally got a place to give them a little bit of a cone. I'll give you an example here. One cone of sequoia with about 10 seeds. I've got two more to make here with about 10 little seeds. These are just little tiny seeds. And I'm gonna fold those seeds up in a packet here. This got all the information, basically where they grow, and very importantly, the fossil evidence. That's why I'm involved in this project, is that, you know, these are California trees, right? And the dawn redwood, that's from China. So how are they native to Washington? Why can we even plant them here? Well, a lot of landscapers already have planted them here, and I visited some, way bigger than I am here, already planted in this area. And so what these pieces of paper are going to have on it is it tells about that the sequoia, a giant sequoia, the coast redwood, which the kids will be planting tomorrow, and the dawn redwood, the metasequoia, all used to grow here. Millions of years ago, earlier times, especially in the Eocene, not long after the dinosaur extinction. It was very, very warm here, up and through about the Miocene time, and then in the ice ages, they had to head south. Well, you know, with climate change going on, it's time for them to come north. And that's a very sad thing. They're not used to having to move this fast. In fact, they've never had to move this fast before. They've had climate change in the past, but it's been really slow, and they could move. Now we're doing it. We're doing it far too fast, and so, you know, we can help them move north. That way it's less sad. And so I'm giving the kids a chance to be able to sprout. Either a metasequoia they'll take home with them, or one of these giant sequoias. These are all dinosaur trees, really ancient. So last two to go. I wrap them up in a little ribbon here, and I've got, I think, 14 of the metasequoias, the dawn redwoods, in these brown packets made already, and then I'll have a total of 18 giant sequoia cones, 1 to a bag. Sure, I'm glad I found a home for these seeds. When you get seeds like this, you really want them to have a home.
We will hear a little about how these saplings made their way here to Jefferson Park, and then we will have a chance to welcome and bless these trees. And then, the youth ambassadors of Plant for the Planet will plant 5 redwood saplings in the hill behind me.
For me, trees are personal. Before retiring from Boeing 4 years ago, I decided to volunteer as a Seattle tree ambassador. I designed and led tree walks in Northeast Seattle, East Lake, and the more I got to know trees, the more I fell in love with them. Then I learned about Archangel Ancient Tree Archive and their mission of propagating, archiving, and reforesting the world with the genetic duplicates of some of the oldest and largest trees on the planet for the benefit of future generations. And that was something that really got my attention. So why would I do this project? 3 main reasons. Number one, I wanted to help these iconic redwood trees survive climate change and the huge drought and warming climate that they're experiencing in California. And this won't be the first time that redwoods have lived and thrived in Washington State. We actually have fossils over here on the table that are over 65 million years old that come from central Washington. And these are the ancestors of redwood trees.
Yeah.
So take some time when you have it to come and look at these fossils. A second reason for planting trees in Puget Sound is because they are the best carbon hogs ever. A study done by a research team from the University of Washington and Humboldt State University has determined that coast redwoods remove carbon faster than any tree on the planet, even faster than the tropical rainforests do.
Wow.
And the third reason for planting trees in Puget Sound is what I call the wow factor. These trees are simply amazing. People love them. Kids really love them. And we would like to just see more of them in Puget Sound.
I'm here today to talk about Plant for the Planet's 3-point plan. Firstly, one of our goals is to plant 1,000 billion, that's 1 trillion trees by 2020. Secondly, we need to leave fossil fuels in the ground.
Yeah.
We want 0 emissions by 2050. And finally, we need to fight poverty with climate justice. That means that those who emit more than their fair share of carbon should have to pay those who emit none, as if they are buying it from them. This year, Plant for the Planet Seattle has hosted training academies, testified for the Washington Department of Ecology lawsuit, has met with the City Council about gas pump warming labels, and much, much more. The redwoods we are planting here today could help sequester airborne carbon for thousands of years to come. Thank you. Thank you, Caroline. Now, I'd like to introduce you to somebody who's been involved in a project similar to this one. Connie Barlow leads a group of volunteers in the eastern United States who are already moving seeds of a tree that is endangered by climate change. Connie's group is moving the Torreya tree all the way from Florida up to North Carolina, Tennessee, and even Ohio. How wonderful that she has joined us here in Seattle today.
I'm Connie, and I am representing Torreya Guardians, and we are thrilled to be with other tree volunteers for 12 years. We've been moving a climate-endangered tree, the first tree moved far north owing to climate change. So I have 3 gifts here that I'm going to be leaving with the climate ambassadors. One is a video. It's called The Man Who Planted Trees. This is the old story by John Giono, not the newer book up there. But I'm giving to them, this is the mythic story that is so empowering for why it's important to keep planting trees. So this is the first gift, Athena. 2 more gifts. I've been inventorying the 3 deep-time native redwood cousins here in the Pacific Northwest. Landscapers have been planting them for over 100 years. They're deep-time natives because, as Philip said, there are fossils here. So the 3 are the coast redwood, which you'll be planting, and I want to give you the hand signals for knowing how to recognize the 3 different redwood deep-time cousins. The hand signals are the leaves come out of the midrib like this. okay? It's called alternate, okay? So you'll see that there. The older cousin, the Meta-Sequoia dawn redwood, used to be way up in northern Canada. Ice ages pushed it down everywhere and it went extinct in North America, only in China anymore. I have little packets of a cone of the dawn redwood and loose seeds in it that I'll be giving to the climate ambassadors in this box and another box. And this one, you'll be able to see in the fossils there from Washington. It lived here. And its little leaflets come together on the midrib just like this, right in the middle. And so you'll see one fossil is a redwood alternate, and the other one is a Meta-Sequoia, a dawn redwood. So I'll teach you back there too afterwards. And the final gift, the third gift in the green cloth, are giant sequoias, a single cone with loose seeds. I collected these in Portland, Oregon, and Lewiston, Idaho. And there are fossils of sequoia in Idaho millions of years ago. So these are the deep time natives. Oh, and here's the hand signals for the sequoia. You'll see a branch of sequoia back there. It basically goes like this. Look carefully. It doesn't have the little needles coming out. It goes like this. So look at that. So here, thank you, plant, for the planet people. Next generation of tree people volunteers. Thank you. Final note. That was December 2016, the tree planting ceremony in Jefferson Park, Seattle area. It's now August 2017, and I am down in Redwood country in Central California, far off the coast, and we have a very hot week here. It's 102 now. It's probably going to get up to 106 again. But what I need to report now is that the first winter, spring that the new redwoods went through, again, they came directly from a nursery in Michigan to another greenhouse in the Washington area, and they were planted in the winter. 4 of the 5 seem to have died by early summer. There's one still remaining. There's a lot to be learned from this. We at Torreya Guardians have had similar lack of success when we're first attempting to discover what's the exact microclimate. That is, do you want them in the open? Do you need some shade? What are the plant associates? What kind of nurturing do they first need? What's the best season for planting them in? Lots of things to be learned when moving plants from their native area up to the area that they're going to be needing this century. And so, sad to report, but nonetheless, results of lack of success are just as important as results of success. So Philip Stilstra will be continuing to keep tabs on all of the communities in Puget Sound that received those redwoods and will be tallying ideas of what seems to work best. So in continuing to plant trees, both for the Archangel Archive tree program, that is for the tallest, biggest, oldest trees, clones of them, redwoods, giant sequoias, and also for the others, Plant for the Planet kids that are looking for climate-adapted trees for their century of lifetime. All of these things, it'll be important to recognize that experiments will be happening and that negative results, that is failures, are just as important as successes. So keep track of the caption here, and I'll keep posting results, or at least give a web page where you can go to for the Moving the Giants to Puget Sound web page. That'll keep track of all this. And in the meantime, take a look at the rest of the videos in this continuing Redwood Sequoia series, moving the giant conifers of California into the Pacific Northwest. I'm Connie Barlow. May the forest be with you.